Nintendo Mania, we have a Legend of Zelda Battle Royale spoiler log for you. For those who are unfamiliar with what that is, our runners will have 10 minutes to look at the spoiler log and plan out their routes for completing this seed. So they will have access to the locations of all of the items, so they will know what dungeons will contain what items. They'll also know what each cave is, and they will also have maps of the dungeons that they'll be going into as well. What they will not have, however, is where the Triforces are located in those dungeons. And Fury, am I forgetting anything here?
You got the gist of it so far. The big premise of the spoiler log is to tell you a lot about where items are and where the staircases to access them are, but it doesn't necessarily tell you when you're ladder blocked or blocked by a bow and arrow or a flute or anything like that.
Yes, that's a good point. So they'll know where the staircases are, but they won't know if it's a staircase to another part of the dungeon or if it'll be an item staircase. And then also they will know the prices of the shops, which will give them the option of, if they know they need meat, they'll know how much exactly they'll need. They can also avoid any of the door repairs, since they will know where each door repair is, allowing them to actually save their money for something such as a shop item like meat. If they're arrow blocked by a Goma, they'll be able to purchase arrows, or they could go for an early blue ring if they wanted to go get the big secrets. And speaking of those secrets, that is something they also will not know, is how much the secret is worth. They'll just know where it's located.
Yeah, as you can see already on some of the tracking, they will know pretty much everything they need to know about where their items to obtain on the overworld are as well. And they will have a general understanding of where the 3 overworld secrets are, since we are on a mixed quest seed.
And it looks like our dungeons are fairly spread out, and a raft will be required, which we do know where the raft will be located. However, the raft will be ladder required, since that is the ladder heart location.
And it does look like our secrets for this are going to be relatively over what they would normally be. There's a 10, a 30, and a 100 secret. And in this seed, it looks like we're going to be at 20, 32, and 125. So all 3 will be over, and one of them is actually at max.
Well, those are some pretty good secrets there. 2 100 secrets will get you a blue ring if you so choose to get one.
It's a blue ring of shame.
And then looking at the potion shops, wow, the price on those blue potions. 53 for a blue and 58 for a red. Might as well just get the red.
So the biggest puzzle to this whole seed is, where will they start? You got a full overworld shuffle as to where they could start.
Well, looking at what we have, I know where I would like to start, and that'd be somewhere near Armos, since that is a red ring. And then you don't have to even bother with the blue ring of shame.
I'm hoping they start all the way up where level 1 is in Death Mountain, have to travel all the way across the world to get anywhere else.
Oh, and that is definitely not a fun place to start. Especially since, looking at it, there is a Take Any road in Death Mountain, so they do have an easy way out of there.
So as we have a few minutes before our runners get going, what I'd like to point out is with mixed overworlds, some of the spots will be definitively caves, like they won't switch ever. Whereas some spaces, such as where the White Sword cave is in this seed, can be either not a cave at all, or they can have the cave as normal, just based on what the seed randomly rolls. So some people may elect to skip some of those caves that randomly roll in, and they may miss an important item.
And with this being the mixed overworld, that also means that some of the ladder blocked caves will be included in this as well, such as the ones near the waterfall. Looking at our current dungeon layout, however, it looks like the only one that will be requiring an item is going to be level 3 with the raft. So it's at least good news for them that they'll have at least easy enough access to most of the dungeons, but they are really spread out. They have dungeons in almost all corners of the map.
Normally, what you said would be true, but we do have two potential issues. Level 4, depending on whether or not rolls mixed first quest or second quest, could be a lake. And also,
you are
level
correct.
9 is located in the desert under the recorder spot.
Yeah, so those could both be recorder blocked.
Yep, you're guaranteed a recorder block in level 9, and it's 50-50-ish on level 4.
But with starting nearby level 1, with what it contains, that may or may not be an issue if they decide to dig deep into level 1 at the start. Seeing as how it looks like level 1 has the recorder and the bow. So that'll depend on what their early exploration is and where they start on what levels they'll see first. If they do start in Death Mountain as you were wanting near level 1, that could definitely give them an advantage. Especially with being able to get the bow early, that does deny the possibility of Gomo blocks a little bit there at least. All right, and looks like we are getting started, and that's not too bad of a start.
No, that starts, you got at least 4 different routes you can decide to go through. And it looks like they didn't all choose the same route, so we should be in for some interesting diversity.
Well, we do have Panzer picking up his blue candle, giving him access to burn bushes. Whereas we have Isolated, and I believe Fred also picked up the money cave. Oh no, Fred did not. Isolated did pick up 20 rupees though.
Yep, Fred went straight for the red ring.
Can't say I blame him there, being able to take more damage, especially with having the mixed enemy groups. And Panzer will also pick up his red ring. And with knowing that the Armless does hide the red ring, I can't imagine not seeing most of these runners go for it straight away if they can. So with where they started, there are no dungeons early accessible other than level 4, and that's only if it's not recorder blocked. So it'll be interesting to see what dungeons, if any, they go for first, or if they're going to be looking for the take any's to get their free blue candle or maybe some extra hearts. And looks like Panzer and Fred are both going the same route, heading straight up for Death Mountain here. Oh, they're going to screen scroll to the Armo spot. and pick up their wood swords. Definitely a good option there since you need something to do damage with. Isolated, however, did choose to go up to Death Mountain and is taking on level 1. And wow, the second room has the bow. And it looks like Isolated is happy with just the bow for now. He will need to go back into level 1 at some point, though, to pick up the second item there.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if he actually goes for some secrets pretty quickly here to get himself wood arrows, or if he just goes for silvers later.
Well, he does have the option of trying to go for the silvers. Since they're not actually far from start, it just depends on if he needs a recorder to get into level 4. Yeah, starting early on, it looks like all of our runners are definitely taking different routes, and we do have Fred who is heading into level 1 as well. We'll see if he just grabs the bow and exits back out, or if he does dig deeper for the recorder. Oh, that is not a fun room.
I think because he got the sword before he went to level 1, he's going to decide to try and at least locate the recorder in level 1 before leaving. And he probably will go for all 3 if possible.
Well, the good news is he does have the red ring, so he's able to take a bit more damage here. With having the blue dark nuts along with one Pole's voice, and then likes, bubbles, fireballs. That is a terrible room to have to look into. And speaking of terrible rooms, Raikou Rider in level 5, which has Lionels. And we've got Isolated digging into level 2. So far, likes and blue dark nuts, not too bad an enemy set.
Yeah, I'll call that a mild inconvenience set right there. It's not super difficult, but never fun either.
Ooh, and there are some Pole's voices there as well. Along with the four-headed Gleeok. It seems for the time being he's deciding without any way to do damage, doesn't want to go into that dungeon. And Fred does find a staircase in level 1. And gets instantly key blocked.
Since we do have access to the spoiler log, I'm going to go ahead and give the item rundown right away so some of our viewers know where things are at. Level 1 has both the bow and the recorder. Level 2 contains the red candle. Level 3 contains the white sword. Level 4 has the silver arrows. Level 5 has the any key or magic key. Level 6 has the power bracelet. Level 7 has a heart container. Level 8 has a ladder and the magic boomerang. Level 9, therefore, has the wand and the book. And item under the Armos is red ring, ladder, heart location has the raft, white sword, cave has Lord Banana.
And speaking of that ladder, Raikou Rider did find a ladder block in level 5. We do have Panzer Dave in level 1, and should have picked up his bow since it was in the room just before the one he's in here. And an interesting play from Fred buying a key. I guess since you don't have too much to actually use your rupees on, other than perhaps a meat, if you do find a meat block, and then wood arrows if there's Goma blocks before you can get silvers, buying keys early is not too bad an idea. That will allow him to explore level 1 a bit more with having a key now.
Yep, buying keys allows you to improve some of the speed on clearing rooms, as you're not required to have to clear a room and pick up a key every time. You can instead just opt to buy them if it's a rich seed.
And looking at those take any roads, I mean, you have quick access to Death Mountain, but that's just about it.
Yeah, I think that's why you're going to see the majority of the runners attempt level 1 fairly early in the seed. Because once they get the recorder and they get 1 or 2 locations south on the southern half of the map, it'll start to open it up for them.
And the nice thing is, I mean, you do have level 2, 7, and 6 all right there in a nice little cluster. So you don't have to travel to the west side of the map other than for level 1 and level 5. And Fred does pick up his recorder. So that does give him access to level 9. And then we'll also be able to check if level 4 is recorder blocked. He'll be able to actually enter level 4. So I imagine Fred will most likely go for the Triforce here. And then that way he doesn't have to return back to Death Mountain. At least not until he wants to go up to level 8. And Panda Dave is going to try taking on level 2. With only holding the red candle, since he does already have the blue candle, most likely won't dig it too much, just search for the Triforce and leave it be, I would think.
Yeah, there's a nice welcoming party for him in that dungeon.
Oh yeah, that four-headed Gleeok is a bit of a pain, but with Red Ring, it's not so bad to deal with. And it looks like we have Isolated, who will be heading over to pick up their wood sword finally. So I'm definitely seeing a lot of route divergences and a lot of different options being chosen here for exploration.
Yep, and it looks like Panzer's strategy is actually going to be to limit his heart pickup so that he can keep beams for as long as possible since he has a red ring. So that takes some confidence in your combat ability to go ahead and do the low percent strategies.
Well, he does have the option of picking up the white sword, which will give him a little bit more combat strength. So even if he does limit his hearts and can't pick up mags, which is actually fairly close to level 9, so it'd be a quick grab before heading in. Oh wow, and look at that shape.
A quad segment level 2. I hadn't even noticed on the spoiler log. That's a mess.
Well, at least the good news is that bottom left room most likely will be a staircase and won't contain much, I would think. Let's actually take a look and find out. Yeah, it doesn't appear like you'll actually need to go there. So Isolated back into level 5 now. And with having the magic key, definitely a good dungeon to try and dig out if you can. That way you don't actually have to worry about purchasing keys, since you'll have the any key, which allows you to open all key doors. And Speaking of keys, we have Fred buying another key. And Raikou Riders seems to be making their way towards level 1 now.
I think it is possible that Fred actually reset or retried. I wasn't paying attention to his, but I think that's just the same key being rebought.
Oh, that is true as well. And unfortunately, Panzer Dave, one room away from the Triforce in level 2, takes a death. But being a small dungeon, he'll be able to quickly make his way back to it and pick it up.
Apparently his game crashed, so that was even better. The good news is he did have at least some of the items saved from a previous save, so shouldn't lose too much time.
Oh, is that what happened? Okay. And Panzer Dave does pick up his red candle in level 2. Oh, and a clutch stopwatch pickup for Fred with all of those red dark nuts in there. Also able to farm some bombs off of them. Meanwhile, Raikou Rider did make his way to level 1 and is doing the exact same and also gets a stopwatch. So Fred does reacquire his recorder now. And Isolated also has gone into level 1 to pick up their bow and potentially the recorder if they decide to dig it out. So 3 of our runners in the same dungeon with Dave in level 2 right now. And Raikou picking up their recorder. So it looks like with level 1, while being a bit out of the way, is at least a quick and easy dungeon to collect your items, collect your Triforce, and then never have to see it again.
Yep, in Fred's case, he knew where everything was from having previously been in this dungeon. So he should have a time advantage over everybody else that tends to clear this dungeon out.
And both Fred and Raikou both picking up a key drop so that they don't have to purchase one. With that enemy set in level 1, it's a good thing they don't have to dig too much into it. Even though they do have the bow, they could pick up wood arrows, which would quickly deal with the Pole's Voice. And meanwhile, we have Dave, who's heading into level 6 now. Now, level 6 does contain the power bracelet, so he won't have to dig level 6 for the item, he'll just have to search for the Triforce here. And Isolated has gone back into level 5. Seems like he really does want that magic key, and I can't blame him, I would want it as well. Although with being filled with Lionels, that is a bit of a mess to have to deal with.
Definitely a frustrating dungeon. You want that item so bad, but you have to fight through all of them.
And the Master Hand over there. Well, we do have at least one ladder block in level 5, but he may have a way around it. And we have a second ladder block in level 5 now. So it looks like that ladder has definitely become very important here. Not only does it give you access to the raft to get into level 3, but it is blocking quite a few paths in some of the dungeons. And Dave is now heading into level 7, and we do actually see that level 4 was recorder blocked. So Raikou Rider will be heading into level 4 now. And since it does contain the silver arrows and he has the bow already, definitely a good idea to get that item picked up early. You won't have to purchase wood arrows since you will have arrows with the silvers now.
Looks like Isolate's finally going to get to the magic key he was trying to get to.
That is definitely a great pickup. Lets you save having to go back and purchase keys or hunt for rupees to do so.
And level 2, vanilla level 2, which houses level 4, did have recorder lakes, so it was required for both level 4 and level 9.
And meanwhile, Fred has made his way into level 4.
That looked like a fun room to me. Gotta love the tea rooms that are chock full of blue whizzies.
Oh yeah, nowhere to hide either. And it seems to be a fairly mild level 7. It's actually a bit smaller by the looks of it than the normal vanilla 7. Oh man, so many ladder blocks. Makes you wonder when we'll actually see our runners head into level 8 to pick up that ladder.
At the rate they're hitting him, it won't take too long for someone to finally get fed up and go to level 8.
Now, you're saying ladder blocks in 5, 4, 7 now as well. And we do have Isolated back in level 1 picking up their recorder, and I would assume also will be picking up their Triforce. Since they do have the any key, they don't have to worry about any doors blocking them, as Panzer Dave picks up his Triforce in level 7. And with 7 only containing a heart container, since he has a Triforce, we'll most likely not see him head back in there. Yeah, he does a quick up A, and we'll be heading to his next dungeon. And looks like we'll be seeing Dave finally going into level 1 to collect at least their bow, but potentially the recorder and Triforce as well. And so far has the Triforces for 2, 6, and 7. So currently I would have to say that Dave is definitely in the lead as far as Triforce pickups go. And Fred does pick up his silvers at a level 4. Does not get the Triforce, however. So he will be having to head back to there at some point to pick up his Triforce. And Dave does pick up both his bow and recorder. So he'll not be locked out of level 4 and level 9 now. Oh, I must have missed Fred picking up the Triforce, so he did get his Triforce in level 4 then. We have Raikou Rider back into level 5, and we'll be picking up their magic key, which will give them much easier access to the rest of the dungeons. And meanwhile, we have both Fred and Isolated going into level 8 looking for their ladder.
Yep, that is the big item that everybody's going to be looking for the next little while, I would think. I kind of expect Panzer to head there next. And then once Raikou gets himself out of 5 and finds the Triforce, he probably will head that way as well.
And Fred does find his ladder, as does Isolated. And the good news for Fred here, since he does have silvers, if there is a Goma block, he will be able to get past it. And Isolated chooses to collect his ladder and be on his way. So it seems Isolated's strategy here is to pick up the items necessary to complete dungeons. And then once he does go into those dungeons, we'll not have to worry about key blocks, ladder blocks, or anything stopping him from completing them.
Yeah, my expectation here is he goes and gets the coast item, and then he may go look and see if he can't pick up the white sword quickly for faster combat.
It definitely wouldn't be a bad idea, as the white sword does, if I remember correctly, double the damage of the wood sword. And level 3, typically you're not going to have to worry about too much blocking your path. And it does look like there were some ladder blocks in level 8 as well, but thankfully since the ladder was in level 8, they are able to surpass those.
Yeah, it looks like Raikou's getting the bad news that his Triforce in 5 is in fact ladder blocked.
And Fred has found our Grumble.
Doesn't look like it's the worst Grumble in the world. It's not really in the way of anything.
I would say the question is, does it actually block him from anything? It does look like he has a way around the Grumble, though. Alright, so Dave has collected his Triforce in 1, and looks like he is going to make his way up towards 8 now as well. And it appears that might be exactly where Raikou Rider is going now as well.
Yep, as the spoilers don't tell you exactly where the ladder blocks are, and given how many ladder blocks we've run into, it was really only a matter of time before all the runners started heading up that direction. We do have the white sword in level 3 being picked up by Isolated.
And we do have our first sighting of a Dig Dogger, but doesn't block anything. And Fred does find his Triforce in level 8, so he'll be able to leave out of there, as he's not going to be worried about picking up the magic boomerang. As Isolated runs into a shoot room.
It's not a fun room to have to clear when you know that the Triforce is actually in there.
At least now that he's got rid of the Pole's voices, he can attempt to clear it a little bit easier here now. And Riker Rider picking up their ladder, and Dave will not be far behind. And Isolated choosing to leave out of level 3. Perhaps wanting to try and take a different approach.
There's not too many ways to fight the Dark Nuts outside of that chute, so it's probably something he's going to have to bomb collect for or find a way in through the key door.
And Dave will now be picking up his ladder. Yeah, but the only other way would be finding your way to that key door, and then you can exit in and out of it to try and get the enemies to spawn more into a more favorable position.
Yeah, unfortunately he came through the shutter door into the chute itself, and I don't think there was a room that he could bomb into on the right side of it, so he's kind of stuck. That's why you see and hear a lot of runners say, oh shoot, every time they enter one of those. It's because it has a really high probability of trolling you.
Especially with the shutter door on the other end. And Fred making quick work of that Goma with his silver arrows and finds the map. And wow, what an interesting shape on level 3 we have. So we do have Isolated, who is in level 4 and picked up their silver arrows now. And Fred will be picking up his white sword not too long from now. So in terms of item collection, Isolated having the bow, the silver arrows, the ladder, the recorder, and the raft, he is not barred from any dungeons and will not have to worry about any blocks in any dungeons going forward either.
That's his big chance to catch up too, with the key, magic key in hand as well.
And that'll allow him just to go to the dungeons and clear them without having to worry about any blocks of any kind. Unless he runs out of bombs and needs a bomb somewhere. And it does appear like he will be making another attempt on level 3 here. And Fred does find that you can bomb from the top end of the chute room there. Unfortunately, he's going to have to leave out of there or go in through the shutter door to be able to clear it. Oh, and he's trapped in the chute with a bubble. That'll limit his ability to actually try and use the sword on this blue Dark Knight on the top here. And we do see Isolated is attempting to go for the bomb strats, but that blue Dark Knight is just not cooperating with him, but he does get it with his last bomb. We also have Riker Rider in level 3 now as well. And wow, Fred actually managed to clip into the block on the chute. Was not aware you could even clip onto those.
Yeah, it's not going to be a problem going up into that block. I think he may be able to pull something off on the bottom, but I think it's more or less a bomb strat on the bottom one to go quicker. And that is what he likes to do.
And that will give him his level 3 Triforce along with Isolated, as Riker Rider takes a death in level 3. So Fred quickly catching up to Panzer Dave, who now has 4 Triforces as well. And Isolated is heading back into level 1 now, so he'll be hunting for his Triforce, and then he'll be able to leave out of there.
Now, this level 3 is really evil. You can't get to the bottom door because you have to clear the room that Riker Rider's in now. If you go in the chute itself, you can't get back out, so you have to use bombs and or be patient with bubbles. And basically, the top's the only way that you can get in and out directly, and it's sometimes hard to get stuff to spawn up there as you want it to.
Yeah, and we saw in Fred's case, he was actually locked in the chute with a bubble.
Yeah,
And
just gotta tip your cap off to whoever rolled the seed.
And Dave does pick up his Triforce in level 8, as Fred is now exploring level 2. And Riker Rider does find his way into the bottom of the chute room. Unfortunately, nothing was on that side for him to be able to actually kill.
Yeah, we're starting to see Isolate get caught back up here too. He's now got 3 Triforces to go with all the items required to complete the seed.
As we see, Dave is now in level 4, searching for his silver arrows. And we have Riker Rider doing some door strats on the Moldorm here. With only having a half a heart, can't say I blame him. He does find his way to the white swords. That will actually give him a little bit more, an easier time on taking on that chute room now.
And he's made the interesting call to bail out of there. I wonder if he's looking for wooden arrows or maybe level 4 or bombs. Bombs make sense.
Yeah, he was at 0 bombs, so can't blame him for going and picking up some. As Dave does find his silver arrows. So other than going and picking up his raft from the ladder spot, he is in go mode other than collecting his remaining Triforces. But we do have Isolated, Riker Rider, and Fred who have picked up their raft along with collecting their other... Well, actually, Riker Rider still does need to pick up their silvers, but looks like he may be on his way to do that now. And Dave, having collected his silvers, and now the Triforce, will be done with 4 and only needs to go into level 3 and 5 now, and he'll be able to head into level 9.
starting to shape up into quite a race to the finish line here. Still kind of hard to tell who's going to come out on top and who's going to go home in the seed.
Meanwhile, Fred has made his way into level 6, which does contain just the power bracelet, so he only has to search for the Triforce, and he can leave right out of there as well. Unless he wants to search for the heart piece to pick up the magical sword. I don't see him going back into level 3 to pick up the white sword, but I do know he is more than comfortable with the wooden sword strats as well. And Dave does pick up his raft and is making his way into level 3. The advantage that Fred does have is he was able to clear level 3 and collect his Triforce piece from the shoot room, which could hold up Dave a little bit here. And Riker does have their silver arrows now, so all 4 of our runners, other than collecting the remaining Triforces, are in go mode. And looks like Dave is making a beeline for his white sword before going for the shoot room here. Can't say I blame him, as having the white sword is definitely a lot of help, especially with that shoot room.
Yeah, it's just a test of how comfortable you are with your combat. If you're not comfortable that you can survive with a low heart % strategy, then it's best to go ahead and pick up your white sword and make sure your speed of killing things goes up.
Especially depending on what we're going to see in level 9. And meanwhile, Riker Rider has made their way into level 3 again. They have plenty of bombs, they have their silver arrows, and they have the white sword, so that shoot room shouldn't be too much of a problem anymore.
Yep, and he got a good bit of fortune with no bubbles being stuck in there.
And actually, with having his sword beams, he is able to attack the Dark Nuts from inside that chute on the bottom side. So Riker Rider will grab their level 3 Triforce. Meanwhile, Dave has made his way into the shoot room. Unfortunately, he did get stuck with a bubble in there. And Fred with 10 keys now. Kind of surprised he hasn't made an attempt on getting the any key yet. Isolated collecting level 8 Triforce, so catching up rather quickly to Fred and Panzer Dave here. And Dave will actually collect his level 3 Triforce, so he's only 1 Triforce away, just has to go to level 5, and then he'll be able to go to level 9. But as anybody who's familiar with Legend of Zelda Randomizer, level 9 can be the great equalizer.
Yep, even with a spoiler log, it's going to take them at least a few minutes in a normal 9 to traverse it and find their way to both of the required things. In this case, that would be they have to kill the pig. Even if they have silvers and bow, they also need to find the girl, so those are basically the only 2 things they're going to be looking for when they're in there.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody going and looking for the book or wands, much less picking them up if they happen to find them.
Yeah, it's debatable at best. You can't use the wand to kill the pig, so its only real use is for Patroclears, and I don't think outside of maybe Fred and his wood sword that anyone would pick it up if they saw it.
And Isolated getting bullied over here by the Grias. And Fred has made his way into level 7 as Dave makes his way into level 5 now. And the nice thing for Dave is, even though it's a long trek to get to level 5, once he collects his Triforce, he can just up an A and will be right over by level 9 and ready to go. As Isolated does collect their Triforce from level 5.
If it's an interesting trade-off for Dave, he's going to lose a little bit of time to pick up Magic Key. But if there's enough key blocks level 9 without key drops, then it'd slow him down not to pick it up.
And that is definitely the choice that you have to make is, do you go for the key, or do you gamble on not getting key blocked? But he does have the key now, so he'll not have to worry about that. Meanwhile, Fred, once he does go into level 5, which he'll be doing here in just a moment as he picks up his Triforce in level 7, with the 12 keys that he has in hand, I can't see him really searching out for the magic key, as 12 keys should be more than enough to get him through level 9.
I think Panzer pulled a bit of an oopsie and up 8 and saved before he got the Triforce picked up out of 5, so he had to run back real quick.
Yeah, I don't think he meant to do that, but the Triforce is quickly obtainable, and so Fred will be picking up his Triforce, and they will both be able to go and head into level 9 now. Of course, the difference here is Dave only has 4 hearts, whereas Fred will have 8. And he's choosing to take a bit of a longer path to 9 so that he can preserve those 8 hearts.
Yeah, it's a bit of a feast or famine play by Dave. He's going to have access to beams, because beams are available to you when you have full hearts. But if he takes too many bops in a room, it's going to slow him down and potentially kill him.
As we see, he does almost instantly runs into a Patra, but was able to quickly bomb through and get away. Oh! And I believe he's found Zelda. So depending on where Ganon lies, this could actually be a rather quick level 9. Or in Fred's case, as he is playing as a Gibdo, where Zelda lies, as he'll be rescuing Ganon. Meanwhile, we have Isolated in level 7, and we have Raikou in level 6, who are not too far behind. And with the Triforce in 5 being quickly obtainable, and they do already have the magic key, that will give Raikou Rider a bit of an advantage.
Man, Raikou Rider's getting trolled by the Troll Dongos, though. He's going to have to go pick up bombs again.
And we hear the roar on Dave's side. And he has found Ganon as Isolated picks up level 7's Triforce. And seems Dave wants to play Ganon a little tune before he takes him out.
As using the flute to try and buffer his sword swipes at the pig. It's one way to kind of work your way through it, but we also have Fred in the same room as Panzer dies.
Dave takes one of those Ganon hugs. Well, depending on how Fred's fight with Zelda goes, this is still a very close race between Dave and Fred. Meanwhile, Isolated picks up their level 6 Triforce. So I believe that leaves only level 2 for Isolated now. And Dave makes his way back to Ganon as Fred rescues Ganon. So Fred will be our first place finisher with an official SRL time of 48 minutes and 28 seconds and says he hates his console. I imagine he's alluding to the earlier mishap with his console crashing, which did cost him a little bit of time.
Yeah, the first crash was the worst. The second two happened after he got a save, thankfully.
And Dave taking out his Zelda here or his Ganon rather, will be not too far behind in rescuing Zelda.
Yep. As this is a battle royale, the name of the game this week is just to advance to the next week. Only the last place finisher gets dropped from the races. So I'm sure Panzer Dave is going to be content to finish up in second place here.
And he does with an official SRL time of 49 minutes and 34 seconds. So GG to Fred and Dave as we have Isolated finishing up level 2 here. And I do believe they did collect the Triforce in 7, so they'll be heading into 9 here shortly as well. While we have Raikou Rider searching for their Triforce in 7, and we'll be able to grab the Triforce in 5 quickly as it was right in the front. And Raikou Rider does collect their Triforce in 7. Meanwhile, Isolated did take a death, so we'll be having to make another attempt at getting their Triforce in level 2.
looks like Riku's going to have a little bit of a lead heading into 9, so it's going to take some catching up to do from Isolated in this room.
Yeah, room full of blue dark nuts, definitely not a fun room to be in. And with Zelda being so close to find in level 9, and Ganon not far away, I can't imagine it'll be too long before Raikou Rider finishes his level 9. Yeah, it seems like overall this was actually a fairly nice seed, other than having so many ladder blocks early on.
Yep, we had 2 semi-troll Triforce rooms in 2 and 3, and just a handful of blocks overall in the seed that made it a bit slower for, well, maybe slower than they perhaps would have liked to go.
I mean, the room full of blue dark nuts guarding one Triforce, and then the shoot room in level 3 guarding the other. Other than that, it wasn't too bad for most of the others. And then level 5, the Triforce was just free to take, as Raikou Riders made their way into the Ganon fight. And Isolated looks to be picking up the letter for a potion before making their way into level 9. Fortunately, that will be costly to him, since Raikou Rider is already in level 9. Well, maybe he won't be picking up a potion. Maybe entered the wrong cave by mistake.
I think it was on the way from the potion he picked up at the Take Any One shop.
Ah, okay.
Level 9, so it's just something he wanted to go ahead and grab just in case. It does not appear it's over yet, as Raikou has yet to see the shutter door itself. Until he sees that shutter door, it's going to give Isolated a chance.
And unfortunately for Raikou, the shutter door for Zelda was not far into the dungeon, so if he starts digging deeper, he could be in some trouble. Speaking of trouble, this Patra here giving Isolated quite a bit of trouble. And with that half heart, he might want to have that potion on hand. Oh, that explains a lot. He was out of bombs, so he was not able to bomb left to actually head towards Ganon.
I think there is a bomb hole required to get to the girl. So
yes, there was
a situation where if Raikou spends his last bomb, it might take him a while.
There was a bomb hole just north of Apatra to get to Zelda, and then there's a bomb hole left of Apatra to get to Ganon, so Patra guards the pig and the princess instead of the compass. Oh,
Yep, Isolate has found the shutter door that is going to lead him to the girl. He's just got to find the pig now, so it's neck and neck again.
and so there was actually 2 bomb holes that would lead to her. Meanwhile, Raikou Rider is actually quite a bit further into level 9, still searching for her. Alright, and we are joined by Fred, our winner of the Battle Royale here. GG, Fred.
It looks like Raikou finally found the correct route to the girl, and he will be the 3rd place finisher, eliminating Isolate 999.
With a official SRL time of 58 minutes and 6 seconds. And meanwhile, Isolated does hear the roar of the pig and enters his room, so he'll be finishing up here in just a moment. All right, so we do have Fred here. See if he's able to get his mic working.
Hopefully it's working a little bit better than his console did for him.
Yeah, 3 crashes in 10 minutes. That's rough. And we are also joined by Panther Dave and Raikou Rider.
That seed would not have been fun to play without a spoiler.
Yeah, those ladder blocks alone were a bit of a pain.
Not even the ladder blocks. It's just that you had to go all the way into the corner of the map to get the recorder that you needed to go into level 8, which was recorder blocked in a very nasty spot, if I may add, to get the ladder.
Well, that's true. There's that too, along with also blocking your level 4 and level 9.
There were actually 3 dungeons that you needed the recorder just to get into. The any key was not easy to get to. The first thing I was thinking when I saw how many dungeons were recorder blocked and where the recorder and ladder were located, that I need to get this any key as soon as possible. And as it turns out, there were a ton of issues trying to get the any key early.
Yeah, there was quite a few levels that had some ladder blocks in them.
I wasn't even paying attention to that. I was just noticing all of the key and bomb issues trying to get to the recorder and the ladder. I actually got really lucky when I got killed and then went back to the start of level 9, because when I found Zelda, I had no clue where she was. But I have to say, overall, I'm a huge, huge fan of this format and would like to see a full-blown tournament with a format similar to this at some point.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun to watch. Seeing what routes each runner decides to take based on the information that they have. As Isolated does finish with a official SRL time of 1 hour, 1 minute, and 22 seconds.
Nice job. Because this was like I said, this was an extremely challenging seed. Even with a red ring health management was a huge issue because of the huge number of wood sword dark nut rooms that you had to do. This seed was absolutely infested with dark nuts. I was considering going after some of the other heart containers and maybe making a play on mags because of how many problems I ran into with combat.
There were definitely a lot of the blue dark nuts, specifically level 2, which guarded the Triforce. And then there was quite a few rooms that had Lionel's and Pole's voice, along with some of the dark nuts mixed in with those Pole's voice rooms as well.
And you couldn't exactly get good weaponry in this seed easily because the wand was in 9, the white sword was raft blocked in 3, which you needed to get the ladder out of a very nasty dungeon to get to.
And then speaking of that level 3, there was that shoot room for the Triforce.
That's one of the most evil things I have ever seen. I did not know what I was going to do in that room if I didn't have sword beams. I was thinking if I didn't have sword beams, what I would need to do would be I would need to clear out as much of the room as I could from the bottom, and then clear out the rest of it from the middle. Maybe try to see what kind of other spawns I would get, but that was really, really nasty.
I did see that the sword beams came in handy for taking care of the blue dark nut that was on the bottom there.
Absolutely, because I think I was in bomb trouble at that point as well. And with the wand being in... Because when you're in that shoot room, taking out dark nuts, the only way you can actually kill them other than with a sword is bombs.
And then if you're getting stuck in the chute with a bubble, as that did happen to a couple of the runners there, that just made things even worse.
I felt I got extremely lucky that the bubble did not spawn in there.
I believe that was Fred and Isolated who both got stuck in the chute with a bubble. Fred did make good use of a block clip, though, to be able to take out the enemies on the upper level. Which that was actually something I was not aware of could be done in the at least the horizontal shoot room.
It's pretty tricky to do. I want to say you get one try at it before you have to re-enter the room.
Which, of course, was not easy to do, seeing as how you were shutter blocked in there.
Like, that was the worst part, is that you got shuttered in that room. But, when I saw the way the items were located, and I saw how many just recorder and raft requirements there were, I knew the only way through the seed was to go up to level 1, and then go to level 8. Oh, speaking of this was a really unusual seed. I never took a single rupee secret. Not one.
Well, thankfully, there wasn't a lot of things that required rupees, other than purchasing bombs whenever you ran out.
I don't think there was in this, but it was just... The whole seed was silly.
I mean, we did see the grumble, but wasn't required.
I never saw him. I don't think. The only thing you would have wanted to buy with money in the seed was a bomb upgrade, because the 100 secrets were actually in really ugly spots. One of them was power bracelet blocked, and I think the other 2 required a candle to get to.
One was draft blocked.
Oh yeah, you're right. There was one raft blocked, one power bracelet blocked, and the other required a candle. That's correct.
GG Isolated. Sorry to see that you got eliminated this race because you played fairly well.
You know, there's a part of me that's actually, like, not upset about it because, I don't know, something about this time slot is starting to get to me. On the other hand, is there a reason everything was recorder blocked?
That's what I was thinking too.
I mean, you had a solid strategy, collect all of the key items that you could, and then go and clear the dungeon so you didn't have to worry about recorder blocks, ladder blocks, Goma blocks. So I mean, it was a solid strategy.
Getting key blocked like twice in 1 and then getting bomb blocked in 5 to get the magic key, so I didn't have to be key blocked in 1 didn't help. Honestly, I think the seed just started too slow for me.
It did. It started really slow for me too. I went and got the wood sword and then got bombs, which took me a really long time in the first place. I went straight to 5 to find the to try to get the any key after I picked up a couple of keys, but I tell you what, I probably spent 3, 4, or 5 minutes outside of level 5 trying to get bombs, and I could not get bombs at the start of the seed. I noticed the 100 secret was big, so I didn't bother writing down where too many of the 30 secrets were. And as it turns out, you couldn't really get to any of the 100 secrets easily.
Yeah, I kind of wrote down every secret and every bomb shop, just in case something like that happened, which it did.
I write down if the 100 secrets are really good, I usually don't take down too many of the 30s. But yeah, just overall, I'm a huge fan of this format and would love to play this format again.
So we do have Dave and Fred in here as well. Dave, we saw that you actually chose for the low heart strategy. What was your thinking on that one?
I value beam sword in this, especially with red ring, far more than I value the hearts. Like if the white sword is nothing good, then it's like I'd rather just go 3 or 4 hearts and I have a white sword available.
It took a while to get to the white sword too.
Oh yeah, and doing that stupid room in 2 on wood sword 3 hearts red ring is not fun.
The one with the blue dark nuts?
It was an 8, I think it was something like an 8 blue dark nut corner turret.
Yeah, that's correct.
I just went in there with full bombs and started spamming bombs, and I still took a ton of damage.
And then, of course, you had the shoot room in level 3.
That individual room is one of the most hideous things I have ever seen in Z1R, just period.
I still hold the Unos Wolfman double blue whiz rope block was worse, but that's up there.
Yes, but yes, I have that is the worst thing I've ever seen.
I actually do remember watching that one. That was great to watch, though.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is the only time you will ever see a player of Unos's caliber buy a blue ring.
So we do have Fred in here as well. Fred, are you actually with us?
I think so.
Aha, we do have a Fred.
Sweet.
So
Sorry about the technical difficulties, but it seems to be done.
Speaking of technical
ruling the night.
difficulties,
Yes.
yeah, your console there, at least thankfully it was early on, and you had the information. So going back into level 1 and recollecting the items, recollecting the Triforce, didn't actually cost you much time.
Yeah, I don't know what goes on with this console sometimes, but if I have to take the cart out and put it back in, sometimes it just, for the first few minutes afterwards, decides to go a little finicky like that. But fortunately, as long as I can readjust it and get the cart back in without, killing the power, the RAM seems to sit in memory. So I was able to at least hold on to that. I was fearing that I was going to basically have to restart completely from scratch. I mean, the knowledge was definitely going to help at that point. Go buy a key, go get a wood sword from where it was in the red ring. But yeah, having to clear level 1 twice, having to enter level 4 3 times, I think that kind of hurt.
Props to you though for winning this race despite 3 console crashes. When I saw your comment, I'm like, geez, even with all that time loss.
Well, I mean, fortunately, it didn't cost too much time. I want to say the first crash cost me minute and a half tops. Basically, it put me back at the start, and I had to recollect recorder. I had to rebuy the key, collect recorder. That time I saved immediately coming out. And then I just had 2 other crashes trying to walk to 4, one of which was a 10 seconds, literally as I was walking down the Armos screen is when it crashed. Second one I got to level 4, I think, and it crashed there. But it just ended up being, it was annoying. At that point, I was just saying, okay, I'm just going to play to try to win, try to be aggressive to see what we can do, because I knew there was a bit of a time deficit there, which is why when I died on the way to White Sword, I said, yeah, no. And I just went straight for the Triforce there and decided I was going to finish the seed on Wood Sword.
Yeah, that level 1, that was definitely the largest time loss, as you had to make the trip back to level 1 and recollect everything.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of pain, especially because, didn't have arrows at that point. I kind of considered going to grab arrows, but I had to buy the key, and I didn't have enough money for both at the time, and I forgot to write down where the mids were. So I couldn't, collect the extra money to have that, and then have the bow at least in 1. But, that's why the reason I made the target for 4 when I immediately after 1, because I said, let me at least see if I can get silvers, so that way I can shoot some enemies if I have to. Again, I was going with the aggressive, try to kill everything strat, and hope that, having the silvers as a backup to a wood sword, at least early on, would at least help speed things up a little. Got lucky.
Yeah, with the abundance of Pole's voices and the pancakes, definitely came in handy having those.
Completely agreed. Fortunately, got lucky that they're still immune. They still take damage from that. Maybe I won't think about changing that in the future. Don't worry, I'm not that evil yet.
The keywords yet. I had a really dumb mistake. I got the any key from 5 and then up 8 and saved without getting the Triforce.
Oops.
Yeah, we were kind of wondering what happened there. It seemed like you meant to up A back to the start of the dungeon, but you up 8 and saved instead.
Yep. Whoops.
See, and I even gave him credit and tracked him as having the Triforce in 5 and heading to 9. So,
No.
At least you didn't explore like 2/3 of 6, discover, those the dongos were right next to start, had them, and I entered the level with 0 bombs and didn't find a single bomb in the level.
I ran into that
Ouch.
issue as well. I was in bomb trouble in 6 at the time, and I think what happened was I had no, I didn't have. It was early on. I wanted to clear that room because I think I came into level 6 with 2 bombs, and then I got the bomb, and then I either killed the Dodongo and either instinctively swung my sword into another Dodongo, or I just took a bop and didn't get a bomb drop.
Oh, that perfect timing.
So then I left. I decided I was gonna stay in the dungeon and not clear that room. I went all the way into the northeast corner, found the compass, and then of course now I gotta go and leave and get bombs.
Yep.
My
Yeah,
6
sounds
was
about right.
fortunate because I ran into that room early, said I'll come back in with bombs, and went outside, got a bomb, went back in, and got the Triforce.
Yeah, I got lucky that I had full bombs when I went in there.
I tell you what.
I did. Go ahead.
I tell you what, though, I have never been more happy to see an Armos Red Ring in this format, because this seed would be absolutely miserable if you didn't have an immediate Red Ring.
Agreed.
I would have been okay if the recorder was the red ring if the recorder was the Armos item and the red ring was that item in 1 that was on the ground that was 1 room in. I would have been okay with that too, honestly.
Yeah, we had
Yeah,
speculated
Red
that.
Ring heated.
Yeah, we had speculated that most likely with having Red Ring just being Armos, depending on where you started, that would probably be the first thing you would go after, and y'all actually happen to start almost right next to it.
The reason why I was wandering a little bit at the start of the seed is because I accidentally, and you might have noticed that I checked that Armos that was directly north of start, because I accidentally wrote down the wrong locations. So I had to just take a moment and pause and go through the spoiler to figure out where the Armos item is. Because if you're not familiar with the format, for those of you watching, if you're not familiar with the format of the spoiler, it doesn't directly tell you where the Armos item is. It just gives you all of the location. You just have to check every location that has an Armos statue in the spoiler, and then whichever one doesn't appear on the cave list is where the Armos item is.
Yeah, maybe someday I'll fix that. The spoiler feature, as I said, was not necessarily ever meant to be a full production feature. It was something, during testing back in the pre 1.0 alpha phases, and a couple of people said, it might not be a bad thing to keep that around. So it really hasn't been developed much. I think I added in the ability to see what the shape of a dungeon was, so that way I could debug, around the time I started playing with shapes a little bit. But really, other than that, I haven't touched that much. So some of the lack of information there is just simply it's things I haven't had to work with when I was, doing my testing. So, it leads to an interesting, caveat that we all have to hunt that down that way. But maybe someday I'll fix it.
I do mostly like the spoiler log the way it is. The only things that I would maybe suggest if you do plan on running a tournament with this, and again, I would like to see that in the future, is just a couple of quality of life fixes. But not knowing where Ganon, the Triforce, and Zelda are, that should stay.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think, any drops, things like that, I'm not going to probably mark most of those. Maybe I'll change a little bit of the format and stuff to try to help people find, again, make it a little easier for people to look through the spoiler. But as I said, it's not something I had really put a lot of focus into up to this point. That could change.
Well, I mean, something like this was obviously never even in your mindset back in alpha.
Oh no,
So...
no, this is completely a debug feature, and just, as I said, happens to work well for this general idea format.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't really change anything, honestly, in terms of it's enough information to where you can do what you want to do, but it's also still makes you play the game.
It's definitely a fun format to watch. I think we saw all four of the runners kind of split off into taking different directions, and so it makes you kind of wonder, oh man, what path would they take? You have access to this, you have access to that, and then of course in this particular seed there was the raft and ladder blocked level 3, then all of the recorder blocked levels. So most people speculated, I think, that level 1 was probably going to be first because there's a recorder and you need the recorder anyway, and level 1's the least likely to have a block.
I wanted to go to 5 first, though, because I was really scared of getting key blocked out of 1. Usually, after I get red ring, when I have red ring and I have a weapon, and I have a good supply of bombs, one of the first things that I do is try to go get the Annie key. And that didn't work too well in the last couple of races before this, because you guys might remember that in the 2 races we had before this, the Annie key was in 9 both times.
Yes?
Yep. It was painful as a nutshell. Basically, when it comes down to this format, there's a couple of really powerful items. The ladder obviously is kind of important because it removes a lot of blockades for the levels. The magical key is incredibly important because if you can get that early, then you don't have to worry about key blocks the entire rest of the seed, as we all ran into in level 1, or anyone who went in there with no keys to start with completely ran into. So those are like 2 of the most powerful things. Obviously the wood sword, so you have a weapon to kill things, and other items will come up as the planning goes, but those tend to be the items that you tend to gravitate towards. And I was debating myself the 5-1 decision, and I just said, what, I want to be able to get myself towards the ladder first was really my goal. And so with that in mind, I was trying for wood, to get the recorder so I could get into level 8 to try to go find the ladder, and then ran into all the key blocks and stuff, the annoying start to the seed.
It's definitely very interesting to see, even when runners have the close to perfect information, the different ways that it can be played out. In most cases, it really depends on where the ladder is, because when I saw the shape for level 8, I saw that the ladder was pretty buried, and I didn't want to risk a key block, so I went over into 5 first to try to get the any key. I think I actually when I picked up bombs, I think I might have gone over to 5 first, just because level 8 was kind of equidistant from both level 1 and the start point, so I could just go over to level 5, get the any key up A, and go into 8.
It did seem level 8 was one of the dungeons that was actually done later by everybody, and y'all slowly all kind of gravitated towards it because it became more and more apparent that we need this ladder.
I don't know who this everybody is. I got mine early, as soon as I got the recorder.
Well, most everybody gravitated towards it later on.
I place importance on ladder first when it comes to these seeds, because there's, as Fred pointed out, a lot of ladder blocks, and if you have like level 1, 2, and 3 that go up, you run into more chances at the blocks.
See, I'm
The
kinda
only
weird.
reason I went for 4 first was to try to get keys because I left level 1 with no keys left over. So I said if I try to go into level 8 and run into a key block, lovely. So let me at least see if I can get into 4 with the goal of getting the silvers and ideally also walking out with a, ideally with silvers and then grabbing a key or 2 extra to walk out with. Seemed like a good plan.
See, I'm weird. I'm bad at fighting Woodsword Ganon, so any sword upgrade to me is what I'll gravitate towards first, and whatever I need to do to get it, that just comes on the wayside.
After I get any key and ladder, a 2 damage weapon is the next thing I prioritize.
Which I would have been totally okay if the wand wasn't in 9.
Yeah, I mean, wand in 9, book in 9, which, I mean, the book, And then, of course, your white sword item being Lord Banana, there was a lot of areas you didn't have to worry about exploring, since so many of the items that you didn't have to worry about collecting were either out of the way or unnecessary. But of course, if white sword item had been something maybe like the wand, that could have prioritized, maybe I collect a couple of hearts from take any's and see if I can get the wand early for, that extra damage.
I went and got some of the heart containers out of the way early anyway, just because I wanted a health buffer.
There's hearts in the seed?
Yeah, there's a bunch
I-
laying on the floor. I think I had like 7 or 8.
I think I finished with 10 or 11.
I had 4.
I had 9. But I'm bad at fighting Ganon, so I need it.
Same here.
I'm just bad, but I survived.
Well, I'll just put it this way. I'm very happy to get my 3 points in this tournament because that's what I'm walking away with.
You never know.
Oh, it was definitely a good race.
Although, to be fair, Fred and I are usually neck and neck in this format.
You've
Oh,
gone,
yeah, you
you've gone
were.
1-2 almost every race. I've looked at the history. I think I've bopped one of you once in the entire tournament.
Hey, guess what? That's still anything can happen. Console crashes, wrong turns in level 9 because you're trying to find where Ganon is, key blocks that you're not expecting. There's a ton of stuff that can happen, and all 3 of us are incredibly high-level players. So, this can easily come down to it's going to be anyone's game next week and in the finals.
Accidental up A saves.
I wouldn't call myself on the same level as you two. Maybe I'm a great router, but the combat.
Yeah, you made top 3. You have to. We've all got weaknesses in places. You made top 3. You gotta at least say something about yourself there.
Point.
Did I
Yeah, this-
just... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, so.
I just want to say real quick, I do think that for this format, it does, to me, seem to favor combat more than it does routing, because you have all the information, not all the information, but a lot of information available. So your routing is more based on what your priorities are and less of, okay, where's the cave density, where's the this, the that, the other, all that good jazz.
Routing's still important, though.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not important. It's just, to me, it seems, from what I've played of this format, it does tend to favor combat over routing in terms of overall, of the two, I'm getting lost in my own words. It's 11:30 and I'm tired. Hopefully people are understanding what I'm saying, because I'm confusing myself now. I'm just gonna stop.
It does put a bit of an emphasis on the combat. I mean, it's there's clearly a lot of routing stuff also involved with it, so it can really swing either way. I mean, the combat can definitely be a good thing because you're clearing a lot of rooms at that point, but at the same time, it all depends on what ends up being where. We've had a couple of combat heavy. We had some Wizrobe rooms last time. We had some Darknet rooms tonight. 1 or 4 of them. So you see some of that stuff come up as we're playing. So it really comes. I mean, it can come down to whatever you see. It really can be very, very different.
It does, but in my experience, you actually wind up clearing fewer rooms in the dungeons because you know where the staircases are. Especially if second quest rooms are on, you wind up clearing far less rooms in this format than you would in, say, bracket flags.
That's true.
Well, there is definitely a lot of combat to be had. I mean, level 2, the room filled with darkness just to get your Triforce. The shoot room in level 3 was kind of painful.
Just Darknuts in general in the seed were awful.
Yeah, and then there was
I don't
blue
think you have to
Lionels.
put the word in this seed to say about Darknuts.
Yeah, Darknuts in general are painful, but this seed, they were especially painful.
I was really hoping for that tea room with the blue Wizrobes to be required at some point.
I tried clipping through that room. I was mad. I was so upset. And then that shoot room, I ended up using the red candle just to try to burn myself to avoid the bubble that was stuck with me in the center.
The seed had a red candle?
Yeah, it was in 2.
Oh, okay. Must have been in one of the blue Darknet rooms I didn't clear.
Yeah, I think Dave ended up just kind of walking across it without actually meaning to pick it up.
Yeah, looking for the Tringle, and I was like, oh, red candle, sure.
Well, good race, everyone. Any final thoughts or comments on this seed?
Can we make this into a full-blown tournament in the fall?
I know we're talking about what the format's going to be, so, who knows what'll happen here. Definitely a possibility. Definitely a very small chance you'll survive.
This seed was butts.
Everybody was a world traveler today.
Yeah, I mean, the only corner that didn't get visited was the bottom right along the coast. But yeah, I can agree with wanting to see this have a full-blown tournament format. It's a lot of fun to watch. It seems to be a lot of fun to play. I might have to give it a try sometime myself. But once again, great race all. Congrats to Fred taking his first place, and as Fury said, unfortunately isolated, being knocked out, but still a great showing from you.
Well, you got 4th place isolated. You get points.
Yay!
Congrats, everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week.
Yep, and just a quick shout out to the tie-dye guy and Ryu for commentating with me.
Well, I think that'll just about do it for us tonight. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the Battle Royale spoiler format and look forward to seeing more of it. Just a quick note for what we have coming up in future. For tomorrow, we actually have quite a lineup for you, with starting at 5:30 p.m. a Super Mario Land 2 Randomizer League race between Late Learner and Beast Frisian. Then at 6 p.m. we'll have a Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link Max Rando tournament between Thorwolf and the Calnus. At 9 p.m. we have a Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise weekly race. And then at 11 p.m. we'll have another Zelda 2 The Adventure Link Max Rando tournament between Bent Glass Tube and Rose City Saint. So plenty more to look forward to tomorrow as well as in the future. So for myself, our restreamer the Tie-Dye Guy, and my co-commentator, Fury, along with Tracker, I'm Ryu Sation saying have a good night and stay random.
Take care, everybody.